are back again on the Flow SMP to finish off this Solarpunk city. I'd already gotten quite a head start with the community center and the foundation of this next building, as well as I framed out quite a bit. There was a lot of landfill that went underneath this building. I knew I wanted this building to be kind of in two parts, so one area being a more open area and then another more wood-based, but I didn't have a very solid clue on what to do so far. Originally, I had planned this building out to be a biotechnic research lab, but I eventually ditched the idea because I really wanted the building to have actual function that can be used in Minecraft. So for the very first part of this, I am building a convenience store so that we can sell some wares to the server and to any visitors. So as part of the stocking for this convenience store, I really wanted to have wares that weren't found in the community center under our donated resources. A lot of the donated resources were kind of just jammed in chests, and I didn't really worry about how valuable they were or how common or uncommon they were, but I wanted this convenience store to be a place that would house anything that could be sold for profit. In my head, this was going to stock armors, weapons, different artifacts, and some weapon trims. So it started building this convenience store inspired by almost a Japanese 7-Eleven. I wanted to go with this teal color scheme to fit in a little bit better with Solarpunk as opposed to just doing plain old green. I was starting building this and I noticed it was really cramped, and I did not like it so far. So I actually went ahead and I expanded it a little bit more so that it was more roomy inside and there was more room to work with for interiors and stuff that can be stocked in the inside. And I went ahead and terraformed around it because it kind of cluttered up on the landscape. I was working on this interior, specifically this back wall was the wall that plagued me. I really wanted to do like convenience store style glass refrigerators on the back wall. I could not find a way to do it. No matter what I was trying, it was not working out. Funnily enough, watching this back, I think I actually have a good idea of what I could have done. But it is a little bit too late for that. Our most prized worker, he really helped with the construction of this build. This is the Wandering Winemaker, everybody. He will be here multiple points throughout this build. This and the Wandering Traveler, or Wandering Trader? I don't know what was up with this time on the Flow SMP, but there were so many wandering villagers, and they were just up in my ear the entire time, like moaning and complaining. But as you can see, I'm working on this back wall right now. I didn't know what to do with this. I kept trying to place Farmer's Delight crates down, and I didn't really like the way they looked. Like, it was too crowded in the back. It didn't give the refrigerator vibe I wanted. Now that I think of it, I probably should have dug out the back wall and used framed glass trapdoors for it. I never wound up doing that, but I wanted to finish out the outside just so I can complete one part of the build. And then I went ahead and made these custom trees. These custom trees are vital, not just to Solarpunk, but I think any really good Minecraft build has custom trees and not just Minecraft spawn trees. I don't love the way that Minecraft spawn trees look. I think they look rather odd, and they kind of fit into the game, but not really. They're really short. They don't have realism or life to them. So I built this birch tree as more of a lively example of what a tree would look like, especially to add some depth and height contrast to the buildings. And then my goal was to stock this convenience store up. I said this was 7-Eleven inspired, and for some reason, all that came to my mind was I have to stock this thing with sushi. So fortunately, Farmer's Delight has sushi rolls. They have sushi, they have nigiri, they have sashimi, I believe, too. And they also have egg sandwiches, which I was thinking of the very iconic 7-Eleven egg sandwiches. So I went ahead and spent the better half of an hour knocking out a bunch of food. Fortunately, the next season of the Flow SMP is going to be Stardew Valley themed, so a lot more of Farmer's Delight will be used. speaking of the next season of the Flow SMP, I have a lot of ideas floating around my mind for what I want to build in the next season. I wanted to know a little bit of input. Would y'all be more interested in seeing like an urban environment, more cyberpunk? I think in my head I want to do a mixture of cyberpunk and like an overgrown city. Kind of like if cyberpunk was left alone for a little bit too long, and really contrasting nature with like grungy griminess of a city in a way that Solarpunk doesn't really achieve entirely. I have this one really great image in my head. I'm gonna keep it to myself for now until this next season, but of a train that is going by this really shallow urban stream, and on the other side of this stream there is these buildings that are stacked up really close to each other that form this like really nice framed shot, and I definitely think I'm gonna lean into that for the next season. But I am really going to miss this season when it ends. I've made so much progress so far in this season, especially with my building progress, and how much better I've gotten at putting compositions together. The next part of this building that I was going to work on was the blacksmithing area. So, like I said earlier, I really wanted this building to have real true function, and we have a lot of create shops and create devices around the city so far, because honestly it makes gameplay a lot easier, and a lot of other members of the city have been really willing to make these machines. But we don't have anything dedicated to plain native Minecraft, like furnaces, blast furnaces, anvils, and I found myself popping down furnaces in the most random areas in the community center to try to make it work. So instead, a dedicated space was a lot better. I wanted this garage kind of vibe and a disconnected building that I actually got inspired from B-Dubs' Cyberpunk City back in Season 10 of Hermitcraft, I believe it was. He made this one red townhouse that had a really nice vibe to it with this like staircase section at the side that led up to the adjacent building. So that was the goal here. And I also didn't really see a space for stairs on the inside like I had wanted to. I normally just start off building and I kind of pray that, oh, yeah, this looks like a space where a staircase would go. But I could not find space here at all. I don't think it fit anywhere. But I'm really glad I made this instead on the outside. I think it adds a really interesting element to the city and it makes it look a little more urban overall. I was also struggling with this section of the build. I had a very specific image in my mind. A building that is a garage on both sides. I don't really think I achieved that in the end. I honestly think I found something a lot better of a solution. I instead wound up having these like industrial pipes and this kind of cracked open looking building. And then moving on to this second story, I wanted to have a bubble column going all the way up through this entire building, and there were a lot of points throughout this build where I had to remind myself that I am not building cyberpunk, I am building solarpunk. A lot of my inspirations have actually been from cyberpunk media, specifically cyberpunk Minecraft build, because they just work so well. I think the layout, the structure, the composition of cyberpunk builds are really thought out, and there aren't a lot of solarpunk builds in Minecraft that fit this specific urban genre. In my head, I wanted the solarpunk city to touch as little land as possible so that the rest of the land could be left natural, which is why I opted for something a little bit more dense as opposed to something more spread out. I was working on getting this wall together and kind of making this a little bit more solarpunk than cyberpunk. So adding in a ton of plants along the exterior, along the sides, anywhere that really called for it, as well as making the building kind of incomplete. Kind of like, this was a building that had to be there for its purpose, but maybe wasn't the most thought out, which, if I'm gonna be entirely honest, it's because it wasn't the most thought out. I wound up going with this like cracked open geode like design on the side, which I think really framed the bubble column really nicely. I know bubble columns are really common in solarpunk or maybe like Frutiger Arrow style builds or style media, and I honestly love the way this turned out. I don't love the fact that you can see the magma, but I think the bubbles tie it together. And then for this adjacent building, I had finally decided it was time. I needed a house. Guys, I was living in the community center this entire time, so I wanted to work a little bit more on the adjacent building before I went and did this. I was waiting for bamboo to grow because I needed that to make tatami, which, again, part of Farmer's Delight. I was stuck on this part of the building. I opted for the exact same roofing system as I did for the last build. I'm a little bit disappointed in myself, but if I'm gonna be honest, I think it turned out really well in the end. Right now, it doesn't look great. I know that right now it looks low-key kind of bad, but I think with the adjacent building next to it completed, it looked a lot better. And I wanted to leave the bubble column again exposed. It's just a really pretty feature. So I went ahead and framed the upper area again as like kind of a break area, kind of like a, I'm done working on my blacksmithing, I'm gonna come up here and chill, maybe look at the ocean a bit. And I went ahead and added a few extra things inside this building. I added a bench on the inside of this building, and then again, the green halo kind of vibe. I don't think it turned out great on its own. I think it looks rather weird on its own. But in the end, it turned out really good. So I was working more on my house, and I was in crunch time to get this thing complete because I didn't have much space to store my own stuff. I just had it in like a public barrel in the community center. So I wanted to go ahead and tatami the whole floors. I love the texture that these brought to the world. I think they are nice. They're kind of like wool carpet, but they have a little bit more character than wool carpet. And for this area, this is going to be my bedroom, I made this wall of cabinetry and wall of bookshelves to kind of keep a very open, airy, spacious room, as the cabinets serve as a pretty good amount of storage, and I didn't really feel the need to add even more storage or insane chest rooms because majority of what I needed is in the community center, and I'm right here. Like, I can go to the community center anytime I want and have whatever I need. So I'm really grateful that I got to just build a nice, pretty house and not make it too overly functional like normally you would have to do in Minecraft. But I wanted to add a ton of furniture to this as it is allowed to be a fun area, and it didn't really have to be anything super crazy or super, like I said, uber functional. So I went ahead and decorated with some bookshelves, again, some potted plants. I think this maybe fit into Solarpunk a little bit better. And then added some custom paintings. I love this custom paintings mod. I'm really sad to see it go for the next season. I found these off of Twitter. I did ask the artist for permission, and I went ahead and decorated this entire house with them. I love the way these turned out. I really wish that I could do this as nicely in real life. Pretty custom paintings that aren't ordered through some like horrible online site that scalps out artists. I decided it was probably time to complete the building. I didn't really feel the need for a second story. It didn't feel very purposeful. So I went ahead and made this green roof as kind of a hangout spot, and I really liked the way it turned out. And I think this helped complete the composition with that other building, the blacksmithing building as well. One really great thing about building on this server is that I get a ton of new friends that come by all the time. This was a brand new person on the server, and I was really happy that he decided to join our city. So he had actually wound up building a house near the beach, kind of like a docky fisherman vibe. And we were kind of just chatting while I was building this whole thing. I'm a little bit sad that the replay mod does not capture voice chat audio, but it was a really great time to just build and have some company and have someone see the build, as a lot of people weren't on the server at this time. So what I'm building right now is this sauna. I'd actually recently watched Spirited Away in my local theater, and I was really inspired by the bathhouse, as I think it's only natural to happen. It is a movie with great architecture and great imagery. So I want to build this red bathhouse sauna. I wanted to frame this amazing ocean view, as Spirited Away kind of has that same thing with that big body of water, ocean, sea. And I was framing the inside a lot like that. So I wanted this welcoming receptionist area where you could pick out your aromatics. And in Spirited Away, they have these tags for the aromatics. Not exactly the same thing, but I honestly kind of like that these flags give that vibe. So you remember earlier how I said I tend to build buildings, and then only later do I think about stairs? This was one of those moments. I was struggling with these stairs. I cut out my entire struggle. Kid you not, I spent 20 minutes trying to figure out those stairs. But I wanted to add the showering area. This is common in American saunas. I think almost any sauna has this, where you're supposed to shower before you enter any baths. So this is the front area. All the aromatics on the walls. Kind of a quiet, warm, cozy vibe. And in my head, this is like a really humid kind of environment. Really damp. Clear the sinuses up. Framing this downstairs area as sort of a receptionist area, somewhere you can sit, just relax, wait, maybe there are people serving on you, but I never added villagers into any of these buildings in the end. And kind of add like a little, I keep saying aromatics, but that's really what keeps coming to mind. So I watched this B-dubs video from the very, very end of Season 10 of Hermitcraft, and he'd spent a very long time terraforming his pathways. He cut most of it out, and I'm gonna be honest, I understand why, because terraforming is not the most interesting thing in the world, but I was really inspired by the gradient aspect of terraforming. He always made the lower parts a lot darker and the upper parts a lot lighter, which I know is a very basic part of terraforming, but I don't tend to do that. I don't love the concept of shading. I think I'm definitely growing into it a lot more, but I think in survival, when things are being viewed at different times, you're being like immersed in the world, shading kind of looks a little bit off. But I think at the same time, with the use of tough blocks, it looks a little bit like grime runoff, if that makes sense. Like natural like runoff at the bottom of a rock after water's flown over it. A lot of times the bottom like tends to be grungy with like biomaterial. So I added the rock section near the sauna, and then I went ahead and added this thing to the side of the blacksmith as I thought it looked rather empty. And I had the pathway, decided to just continue it down to our original pathway, as it was kind of missing a connection to the rest of the beach area. And then I went ahead and terraformed all near the community center at the same time, because it would be wrong not to. I feel like it's only right, and it looks more proper now that it's terraformed on this side. I also went ahead and terraformed the lower area, but that was at a later time. One thing that's always really stuck with me from Spirited Away is the residential, like, living area where all of the girls sleep. I love that ocean view, the way it juts out over the landscape, how they sit there and dangle their legs while they eat or they talk, and the kind of double layering that happens in that space is so pretty. And because this is next to the sea, I knew that I had to do something similar to that. Once I started on the second story of this build, I knew that that had to be implemented. I don't think it would have turned out as nice if I didn't have vanilla tweaks for the 3D trapdoors. I think the 3D trapdoors add that extra amount of texture that is really needed to complete the area, especially with the fence gates and the shoji doors that do a lot of work for making the space what it is. I think maybe the same thing can be achieved with oak doors, but not to the same extent that I did. And I wanted to make more of a larger pool on this area to complete the space, and there wasn't very much space for two pools. I think one pool was the easier solution here. And again, it's Minecraft. Like, it doesn't serve a whole ton of function. This is one of the prettier buildings, more of the chill, hangout, talk areas. I started roofing this building. I was not happy with the way this turned out. This building is the most oblong, weird shape. There's a bunch of corners. So instead of doing that, I went with a flat roof yet again. It has me on a chokehold. And made it green, added some antennas to the top, and this definitely made the building a lot more Solarpunk than it originally was. I think maybe in the beginning it was a little bit of a stretch that it was Solarpunk, as it's kind of a departure from the original style, but it definitely adds to the eclectic vibe of the community. And that completes the Solarpunk city. I think I am really gonna miss this season, as it carries a lot of fond memories for me. It is the very first world that I've managed to start a city with a bunch of other players on. One of the first times where I felt like my progress is pretty visible throughout the season in the way that I think about things. I definitely fixed my block vomit issue, which I'm very proud of. I'm really sad to see this season go, as this is it. These builds don't exist after this. I personally don't have any copies saved of these builds, and I think that's really beautiful that they exist for a temporary time, and then they're gone.